Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a truly fascinating explainer. We're going to unpack this absolutely brilliant 16th century legal battle that is just as much about semantics and property rights as it is about human nature. It's a classic tale, right? And it shows us that manipulating the fine print isn't exactly a modern invention. We're going to break down the logic of one of history's sharpest minds and see exactly how a seemingly impossible dispute got solved with pure, unadulterated wit.
So, I want you to play judge for a second. If someone sells you a well, do they also sell you the water inside it? Now, your immediate reaction is probably, well, yeah, of course. But what if the contract only specified the physical structure of the well? That's the exact puzzle we're analyzing today. Before we reveal how this actually played out in history, I want you to keep this little semantic loophole in the back of your mind. How would you rule if someone used this exact trick against you?
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. Water crisis in Vijayanagara, setting the historical stage.
To really get why this legal dispute was so incredibly tense, we first have to understand the environment where it all went down. We're traveling back in time to the Vijayanagara Empire. This was a massive, incredibly wealthy kingdom in southern India. But, despite all its wealth, the empire was completely at the mercy of nature. According to historical accounts of this event, it was the dead of summer. The region was gripped by the severe drought, leaving the whole empire facing a massive, life-threatening water shortage. I mean, we aren't just talking about a minor inconvenience here, we're literally talking about survival. Under these extreme conditions, water wasn't just a resource anymore. It was the single most precious commodity in existence, way more valuable than gold.
And that brings us to the absolute crux of the crisis for this specific village. There was exactly one big well for the entire village. Just one. That's it. This was the sole source of hydration for the entire community. Every single family, every farm animal, literally everyone relied entirely on this single well. So the stakes really couldn't possibly be higher. If access to this one well got restricted, it meant total devastation.
Which leads us to Section 2, the unique well dispute, a case of semantics.
Now, what's really interesting about this setup is that into the grand, honestly kind of intimidating royal court of King Krishnadevaraya step two ordinary villagers. And they bring with them a legal dilemma so unprecedented and so strangely complicated that it absolutely baffled everyone in the room. So here's the deal. On one side, we have the first villager. He was the original owner and he sold the well to the other man, but now he's being physically blocked from drawing any water from it. On the other side, we have the buyer. And his argument, he says, hey, I bought the well, therefore the water belongs to me, and the original owner has absolutely no right to it. It's this incredibly clever but super greedy loophole. The buyer basically mentally separated the container from its contents just to monopolize the most critical resource in the entire village.
So, the king listens to this and quickly realizes he's got a major problem on his hands. Legally speaking, sure, the buyer bought the well, but morally, denying water during a severe drought is basically a death sentence. King Krishnadevaraya needs a solution that completely satisfies the law but still punishes this blatant greed. So what does he do? He turns to his most trusted advisor, Tenali Rama, and appoints him to judge this seemingly impossible dispute. Now, Tenali Rama is legendary for his lateral thinking. He is basically the ultimate logical judge. You can just imagine the tension in the court becoming palpable as he steps up to unravel this massive semantic trick.
All right, moving to Section 3, Tenali Rama's Justice, the art of the cross-examination.
Okay, this is where the magic actually happens. Tenali Rama doesn't yell. He doesn't lecture. He doesn't just hand down some sweeping moral judgment. Instead, he uses the buyer's exact same literal logic right back at him. Let's walk through this brilliant trap step by step. Step 1, Tenali Rama simply asks the buyer, did you buy the well? The buyer, feeling pretty confident, answers, yes. Step 2, Tenali Rama follows up with, did the written agreement include selling the water? Suddenly, the buyer is completely silent. It hits him. He realizes the trap. If the contract was only for the well, the water isn't his. And then comes Step 3, the absolute knockout punch. Tenali Rama decrees, since you only own the well, you must either evict your water from the well immediately or pay rent to the original owner for storing his water on your property.
Talk about a flawless checkmate. He states plainly, if you only bought the well, the water is still the first owner's. I want you to just pause for a second and let the pure, unadulterated logic of that counter-argument sink in. The buyer tried to separate the container from the contents to steal the water, right? Well, Tenali Rama separated the container from the contents to prove the buyer was trespassing. It is just an absolutely masterful flip of the narrative. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates exactly what happens when bad faith arguments are exposed to the light of true logic. The immediate aftermath is just total defeat for the manipulator. The buyer realizes his little semantic trickery has completely fallen apart. He really has no choice but to accept his mistake and immediately give water access back to the original owner. And the best part? All of this happens while the entire royal court bursts into roaring laughter. Justice and harmony are completely restored to the village, and they did it all without a single sword being drawn.
Which brings us to Section 4. The true meaning of words, the philosophy of justice.
But this explainer doesn't end with just a clever trick. There's actually a much deeper philosophy at play here. King Krishnadevaraya is of course thrilled with this outcome. He praises Tenali Rama, declaring that justice administered through sharp intellect is the absolute highest form of justice. And Tenali Rama replies with this really profound thought. He says, teaching the true meaning of justice to someone who twists words to steal others' rights is the greatest justice. This is incredibly powerful. It tells us that simply forcing the guy to share the water wasn't enough. The highest form of justice is dismantling the manipulator's logic so thoroughly that they actually learn the error of their ways. Defeating semantic manipulation isn't just about winning a case, it's about protecting the very foundation of fairness.
So, the crucial point here is really captured in a few key takeaways. First off, arguments built purely on greed are inherently fragile. They just do not last when put under real scrutiny. Second, true justice requires a combination of fundamental fairness and sharp intelligence. You have to be smart enough to see through the noise. And finally, the fine print of any agreement shouldn't be used as a weapon for deceit. Contracts are supposed to foster cooperation, not serve as hidden traps.
Which leaves us with this final thought. We've been talking about a legal puzzle from the 16th century, solved in a royal court. But take a look around us today. How often do people right now still twist the meaning of words, hide behind technicalities, and exploit legal loopholes just to steal the rights of others? The tools might have changed, but human nature? Not so much. So the next time you find yourself tangled up in the fine print, ask yourself, are you dealing with the well, or are you dealing with the water? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the details.